remember to check out the first part of this video if you haven't already, but for now, let's just get into the main subject of this video. Okay, so first of all, Neighborhood War has a badge called Lobotomy. To get this badge, however, you have to be extremely lucky when joining a random server. If you are lucky enough, your screen will be flashed with random images and you will die. After that, you will be awarded with this badge. So what's going on? Who's the observer? And what is this mysterious creature which kills the players who is lucky enough to get the badge? To explain all of this, we first have to understand what lobotomy is. To those who don't know what it is, it's basically a surgical operation involving incision into the prefrontal lobe of the brain, formerly used to treat mental illness. Now let's get back to the question of what's going on. My first theory for this is that there are certain individuals who went through lobotomy, but instead of fixing their mental illness, which mostly are PTSD from the war in the neighborhood, these individuals were instead implanted a manually or automatically detonated explosive into their brain, or some kind of device which allow a third party to control their mentality or mess up the brain completely. This theory does make sense if you look at Radoni's first video, which shows two players walking down a road, then suddenly got their head blew up by the observer, who also have part of his head removed. If you still haven't figured it out yet, let me piece it together for you. Lobotomy is a surgery which involves around operations on the brain. It would make sense that these two individuals, instead of going through a proper lobotomy, they were implanted with an explosive instead. And for the observer himself, personally I think he wasn't really there at all, but the observer they see is actually a hallucination which made by the device or whatever is in their brain. That explains why the observer's face is always a question mark. He is toying with his victims while not letting them know what he looks like before brutally blowing their head off. The same goes for the creature I mentioned earlier. This may have concluded that this entire neighborhood has been tricked into killing each other for who knows how long. Also, there's one detail in the subway that I find interesting. As you already know, there's a train which passes through the subway occasionally but never stop completely. Either these trains are used to transport the people who were behind the war, or the outside world knows about the existence of the neighborhood and is watching the people there massacre each other for their entertainment. Basically, in this theory, the entire neighborhood was being controlled by a third party who uses the residents as test subjects, pawns, or for the entertainment purpose. They previously killed all authorities of the neighborhood and set the scene up to make the resident feels like they are fighting a devastating war. And if you still remember the video where two players walk down the road then ultimately get killed, the scenarios are completely different than what we saw in the game. There are also apparently no other people than these two on the observer, which, this could means that this town which are shown in the video aren't really a normal town. It's just an area that was set up by the people who are behind all of this, or again another hallucination, to make some of those unlucky few think that they might be able to live a normal life again. The second theory is that this neighborhood is just the observer's pocket dimension, where people are randomly kidnapped and is forced to fight each other. This theory explained why there are some parts of the neighborhood that doesn't make any senses. And the egg which are in the torture room might have been the egg of those creatures who reside within the dimension with an unknown purpose. Leave your thoughts down the comment if you want, since I only did a light research on Neighborhood War.